Ring going.
I see it. What up, guys? Jason Guyman here with King of Pressure Wash, and tonight I've got a special guest on that I had on before. And the last time he was on, we talked about running a business without you being in the business, and we'll talk about how that went and how everything has gone how the thing has come all the way around here. But before we get started, it is Happy Father's Day. We want to say Happy Father's Day to everybody. Hope you all had a great day. Hope everyone is celebrating Father's Day. If you are a father, if you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you're not a stay-at-home mom, if you're like Trisha that we have in our group and she is the father and the mama, we tell her too because that she's putting in that. But actually, her dad kind of steps in there, seems like, which is pretty awesome of helping being a father for her kids too. So with that, other than that, this weekend we went to St. Louis and like business, we did good one day and the next day we didn't. We lost the second game. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. We'll be talking about some of those too tonight, some losses that we've encountered as Chip had his journey through learning things and doing things and finding out things that you didn't know that could happen that would screw up that you just didn't know, right? Because, hey,
But
that's
Jason, everything's awesome all the time. And as soon as you get into business, pressure washing's awesome and amazing. Everybody just throws you lots of money and there's never any problems you have to deal with. Isn't that right?
that's
That's what
right.
you told me. I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding. You
And
didn't
you
tell me.
know, the one thing that I want to hit on Chip is he does have an amazing customer service, and that is something that will help you get more so than anything else. So with that, let's jump on here to the comments. I love the down ones already. That is something that I see. Um, let's see. Soft wash H2O. I messaged you Friday, and then you can text me and message me any which way you need me to get a hold of you. What's up? Hi, all big time in the house. And if you need to do a Zoom call with me this week, let me know. Send me an email, and we will jump on a Zoom call. Just upsold a simple driveway cleaning from zero to driveway pressure washing steps and everything. Upselling works. Yes, it does work. It's awesome. It is definitely one of those things that if you're not doing it, we'll talk about that tonight about how do we get our average tickets up. How do we do that? That is definitely a way to do it. The shortest double axle trailer I've ever seen. It is a pretty short one, and we'll talk about a story. Well, we might not, but how you can jackknife that too. So that is everything. Bunch of people saying Happy Father's Day. Nathan was louder. Happy Father's Day. Jarrett, hey guys, Robert. All right, so for everybody that doesn't know who you are, Chip, tell me just a little bit about who are you, where are you from, and all of that good stuff.
So I'm Chip Shaler, Clash Pressure Washing. Uh, about almost 2 years ago, I started a little side business called pressure washing because I found out that Jason said you could make some money at it. And when I started, my brother he ended up starting with me, and he was my technician. I was assistant plant manager at a plant, and so I had him do the jobs, and I dealt with marketing and everything. And I've got a wife and two kids, and my wife helps me with the calling and the quoting and all that kind of stuff. And then last fall, um, she I finally quit my plant jobs, and I went in full time. And so that's kind of where we're at now. So I've been doing this full time gig for about 10 months.
All right, so let's go back to when we had to quit and go full time. Can you turn him down? I can if he is loud, if anybody else is saying that. So let's go back to when we first started back and we actually was trying to get full time. Let's hit on that a little bit because that was definitely a process of getting you full time because there was some fears and things that you had to overcome. And let's hit on some of those things.
Okay, so the biggest thing, and there was like a block wall that said, but Chip, what about insurance? You have to have insurance. You've got two kids, you got a wife, you can't have your family without insurance. And, you know, insurance has got to be really expensive because you don't have a plant paying for half of it or whatever. I can't afford that. And that was just in my head all the time. And then it's funny that once, you know, the fear is in the unknown. So once you know something, then a lot of times it takes a lot of the fear away. So after a few Google searches and about 8 phone calls, I found some insurance, and lo and behold, it wasn't that bad. And so that kind of took that excuse away from me. And my wife, I kept, maybe I should go full time, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should. And just one day she's like, "Do you got the balls to quit or don't you?" And, you know, and it just kind of shocked me a little bit. And I was like, "Well, yeah." She's like, "Well, then let's quit talking about it and just do it then. Set a date and do it." And so we did. And, you know, she kind of helped push me over the edge a little bit. And and I'll say this, you know, because some people are like, "Well, you've got to have a bunch of money in the bank. All your debts have to be paid off, and everything has to be set up perfect before I can start my business or before I go full time." And I'll tell you, when I quit, I had, you know, my bills paid up to date. I do have some debt, um, and I didn't have any savings really. It was more of a jump on faith because I had one more check coming in, and then that was it. It was sink or swim, figure it out. And from that point on till now, you know, we've survived, and you know, we've been growing.
And so let's talk about when you went full time. What were some things that you were doing marketing wise to be able to get jobs, right? Because, you know, a lot of people always want to know, well, what are you doing marketing? How are you getting all this money? How is it coming in? But even last year, let's go back to last year. What were some things that you were doing? And again, this is about consistency, right? A lot of times people are like, well, I put out 100 signs and that's all I did, or I went and knocked on 20 doors and that's all I've done. And I don't know why I can't keep getting business because I did the 20 doors 3 months ago, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. So what back then, what were some things that you did to get business last year?
So okay, let me back up like way early because this ties into it. So when I very first heard about Jason, he said set up your Google account so that way people on Google can find you, and I did. So I set that up way back when, started putting pictures up consistently way back when. Every time I got a review, I replied to the review, you know, with their name in it and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I went full time, just, you know, um, Google searches were getting me jobs, but I was very hands on. I was door knocking. I did. I, Back then, I didn't do 5 rounds and I didn't do 10 rounds. I did neighborhood rounds because whenever I'd get that job done that only took me 4 hours, I didn't have another job lined up that day. So what did I do? I took the rest of the day and did the entire subdivision, and I would go hit all those doors. And then I would use the job that I just did for momentum to help push me. Hey, I just did so and so's, and they love it. You can ask them about it if you want to, but let me go ahead and get you a quote too, and you know, and that kind of thing. So I did those things. I did yard signs. Yard signs were everywhere. You ask any of the people that know me in this area, they're like, yeah, his signs are everywhere. You can't drive through this town without seeing the sign. You can't drive through the next town without seeing his sign. My signs were everywhere. So that was the basis of my business, was yard signs and door knocking and Google.
So the back to being consistent, prolific, and relentless. Consistent is, you know, you worked on your Google, you didn't really work on your reviews much last year. You upped your game on that this year, but you worked on getting the photos in, your post. You worked on those things, right? We worked on those things. and we worked on yard signs and door knocking and that. So, what did you end up doing your very first year just in pressure washing alone? Half part time, half full time in pressure washing.
So it was like 118.
So you did 118,000 your very first year doing pressure washing in 2022.
Yep.
So moving to 2023, you've upped your game in marketing. You've been in my mentorship since I started. You were one of the reasons why I started it, because you guys were asking for it. And so you've been in there and we've been helping each other and we've trying to do that. But I want to hit on something else because I want to see who else is here, because this is definitely something that someone asked. And I want to know who else's story is kind of like this. Chip, your story sounds the same as mine. Been full time going on 1.5 years. How many people in here that if you're not busy, instead of doing a 5 around or a 10 around, you do a subdivision around, right? Because I want to hear what you say. I want to see what David says, because David has always got good information. That is spot on. Flyer the entire subdivision, not just one time. Flyer them until they complain. Same with yard signs. You know the best subdivisions, so go out there and work them until you own them, right? And this is even back to, we were talking about in the mentorship, because we were up to 10 or 9, I think. And so this is something that we hit on of, even if you get a job, even if you get another job in that same neighborhood, don't do them all the same day. Go back the next week or a couple days later and you flyer that sucker around again, and you put a yard sign out there again, and you hammer that over and over and over and over. So that way we are telling people what we're doing there. So you hit a big milestone coming in June. What was that milestone for you? Because we like setting goals in mentorship, and we like setting goals just in business as all. But what did you hit coming into June?
So in June, I hit $100,000 for this year. And right now, to date, I'm at 117,988 is what I'm at from this year, this
And
calendar
how much
year.
are you going to do this June?
Just June, I'm going to be about 47,000, but I'm hoping to hit that 50,000 because I still got 3 days open. So there's still plenty of room in the schedule to hit that 50 grand for this month.
So that's pretty awesome to be in full time. And then another cool stat that you pulled too was, how much have you done since you went full time?
So when I went from the day that I started full time to today, I've done 245,975. That is
So
with Christmas lights, I will say. That was 82 grand in Christmas lights.
so you did almost $250,000 since you went full time. Now, there was a
Yep.
lot of things that you were struggling to go full time and wondering if you were going to make it. Now, I'm saying all this, and yes, it's been good money, but I want to hit on something else too, that a lot of times people don't always remember this either. And so, another thing is we go through wintertime, and let's talk a little bit about the struggle of wintertime. When we come to this subject of wintertime, how did your wintertime go? Your very first wintertime as being full time.
Oh, it was stressful. It was stressful because, the money's coming in, but especially when you first start, like the Christmas money the first year, it's good and there is profit in it. Don't get me wrong, but I did not do a good job budgeting. So because I didn't do a good job budgeting, I didn't have a little nest egg to fall back on. And, around end of February, March timeframe, it was getting skimpy. It was getting skimpy. But one thing that I did do though, because we're still talking about marketing a little bit, is even though my funds were getting low, I went ahead and bought 30,000 flyers to do EDDM with for this spring. And that is really what has helped push me this spring, is because I went ahead and invested the money um, to put that out there.
And that has helped you tremendously, correct?
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
did you
each
just
month.
quit doing all the other stuff, or did you do that in top of all the other stuff too?
So I don't, because I've been so busy, I don't do as much door knocking, but I hit 5,000 homes every month with those EDDMs. So um, I don't do as many door knocking. I do still do 5, 10 rounds. I actually did one more subdivision around this year because we didn't have anything the rest of that day. But it's more as time goes, and I still have yard signs out. Actually, I need to put some more yard signs out.
So,
And we're still doing all the reviews and the Google and all that stuff too.
so I want to hit on one thing here that because I love. I'm not hitting. I'm picking on you too hard, Joshua. But this is something that I see a lot of times. So it doesn't rain in your state. You're lucky. And you know, and I want to hit on another thing on this here too is, you know, if you look at the justice map and you look at different parts of this here, you wouldn't see much money coming out of where you're located at in Alabama. In fact, you would think there's no way that you can make money in this area. But there is a lake, and there's a lot of money around those lake houses. And you know, and a lot of people don't go after those types of homes, or they're too scared, they're too big, they're too whatever. You don't look professional enough. You're not smart enough to get in there in the first place. And so it doesn't rain there, but you've actually been rained out this week, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So if it's sprinkling, I'm just gonna go wash anyway. So anybody who says oh, it's raining, I can't do nothing, then I mean, it's water. I mean, chill out. I'm gonna just go
Yeah.
do the job. Now let's see. It was Wednesday, Thursday. It was like thunderstorm, lightning, and everything. So I had to push those two jobs out. Those were over. That was close to $7,000 in those two jobs that I had to move out.
So
But
let's talk about when you first started. What type of neighborhoods were you looking for when you first started and knocking in, versus what you're kind of looking for now as we're learning where our customers are?
when I first started, I was looking for look at that dirty house. That one definitely needs clean. Look at that dirty house. And you know, some of them were nicer, some of them weren't as nice, but it was more of a I saw a need, whether they wanted it or not, and I wasn't really necessarily looking for my customer.
And what was
This
your
year,
average ticket at that point when we were looking in those neighborhoods?
uh, around 600, I believe, is where I was at last year. Um, Yeah, somewhere around in there.
So then you did one big driveway, correct? That kind of started pushing you where you needed to start looking at.
Yeah, last summer, I ended up taking a vacation day from the plant because we had a $3,000 driveway, and uh, you know, my brother washed it and I rinsed it right behind him, and it took us 6.5 hours, but it was 3 grand, and that kind of opened up my brain just a little bit. Like, they just spent 3 grand to get his driveway cleaned off. Um, I wonder what people like that would get, spend to do their house. I mean, so with the EDDM, that's the other thing is what I did over the winter time, and that's something that Jason has really worked with us in our mentorship group about. Over the winter, we really focused on our marketing plan, what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and no matter what you picked, I mean, you got to really dial into what do you want out of it. Do the math, do the numbers. What's your goal? Now, how much of what do we have to get that goal? And I knew it was going to have to be a lot of flyers, and also the the neighborhoods that I knew my customers were in, I couldn't get in them. And it's not like a no solicitor sign out front. These are like gated guards. They're like, what address are you going to? So it's like you don't really just walk through those ones. But the mailman goes in those neighborhoods every day. So that was my big plan. Let the mailman do my dirty work.
And it has paid off for you, hasn't it?
It has.
What's your average ticket so far or this year?
So if you go by the invoices, which is what I've got, for the year, I'm at 761. But I had a lot of gutter cleaning jobs that are in there. And I haven't figured out how to take it out of Jobber, but I've got monthly payments that are coming in for Christmas lights for this coming year. And so those count towards that. So it kind of skews my numbers a little bit. I've got to figure out how to get those broke out so I can just see just pressure washing jobs.
Gotcha.
But Autumn is consistently closing $2,000-$3,000 residential house wash and driveway window cleaning. She actually just closed a $7,900 residential house cleaning for the second house that we've done. So we've got one on the books for this week. For his lake house, it's going to be $3,500, and then his other house in another town that's about an hour away is going to be $7,900.
So your lifetime value of customers have went way up by finding the right customers.
Yep, absolutely.
David put, save flat work job for rain days or windy days. You can make money in any weather. Remember, without rain, you don't have so much as mildew, and that's true.
Yep.
It also doesn't matter the size of the area you're in. We are in a town of about 80,000, and for June we will hit $145,000 with an average ticket of $1,000, almost $1,100. And he's got a lot of competition in that area too. So, go ahead.
Another thing with that to tie into that, where he said, we're not in a big area. Anywhere you go, you've got poor people and you've got rich people, right? Because anywhere you go, there's businesses, and somebody owns those businesses. And if they're not making a profit, they're not going to be in business long. So if you've got successful businesses in your area, that means there's a business owner somewhere. So if you don't see, well, I drive around my neighborhood and I don't see any like nice houses. Well, go to the other side of the town, use that justice map to see if you can, flush out where the money's at,
Yeah. So let's hit on a little bit about, education and keep not knowing it all, right? A lot of people, we get into the business and we think we know it all and we never want to get out of it. I've been reading the book, and this is the book that I didn't talk about the weekly book, but this is the book is 10X is easier than 2X. And he talks a lot about this of working on the 20% that's going to make you better and get rid of the 80% that is going to just keep you where you are. And as you were learning in this, this is definitely something that you've done. You've taken my classes, you've been in my mentorship, you've taken a lot of information, and you keep learning. You're not just learning from me, which I push you guys to learn from other people too. Not just people in the pressure washing world, but people that are, that you learn other skills and things along those ways. Let's talk a little bit about education. What all have you done and how has it helped you keep elevating you and keep moving you forward?
So, like Jason said, I've been in the mentorship group, and I'll say this too: when you open your wallet, you open your brain. So, spend money on expanding your brain, expanding your knowledge. The other thing that we've done is me and my wife have both went to Michael Burnoff's Core Live. We flew out to Arizona and we did that conference. And, whether Autumn will admit it or not, when we came back from that conference, she almost immediately started closing, $3,000 jobs, where before she would just she was nervous about them. And whenever you would get a high ticket, she wouldn't close as many, and, the confidence and it's all about, communication and how you talk to yourself and your inner voice and all that kind of stuff. So how you communicate matters, and how you communicate to yourself matters. So I've done a lot on communication, and mindset stuff. The other thing that I do a lot of is I listen to a ton of podcasts, and it's not how to pressure wash a driveway podcast. It's, what are the things that you think about? Leadership. How are you to lead your people? You know, what are what are you thinking about that's holding you back from getting to that next level? You know?
Let's talk about that, because I've always said, I've been talking to people here lately and kind of mentoring ship of, not even just in the mentorship, but just helping people grow to get to the next level. And maybe the people that are at $500,000, $600,000, how do you get to that million? How do you get to the 2 million? And it comes down to leadership, and this is something that is not an easy task, of you're doing it. So you just brought on your second truck, right? Your goal was to do it by the end of the year. You brought it on in the middle of the year, and let's talk about that a little bit, about how that process of getting people on there and moving forward.
Well, I don't know about the process of getting them on. I there's a technician that worked for me at the plant that I worked for, and he's one of those guys that I never thought that I'd get him to work for me as a pressure washer. But I guess the new place he was working at, his boss didn't know how to lead. He wasn't giving them the opportunities. He wasn't treating them right. And I'd call him every once in a while and say, "Hey, you know anybody that would want to help me out a little bit?" And he finally answered me. He said, "Hey, man, how about I just come work for you full time?" I said, "Come on, dude, let's start tomorrow." So, you know, my leadership when I was in the plant got me my first employee in pressure washing, because people will remember how you made them feel. They may not remember what you say and what you did, but they will remember how they made you feel. And if you're the type of person that can lead by example, can can show up for your team, can have your team's back, they're going to remember that. And that's how I got my first employee. But the
I
reason
was
why I
thinking.
got,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the reason why I got my second truck is last year, Autumn closed a $26,000 commercial job that requires me to travel to do it. It's going to take me about 3 weeks, and we scheduled that for July. So Autumn said, "You've got to have a second truck and a second team ready to go, because whenever you go in July, if we keep getting these quotes coming in like this, then we're going to have another truck here to take care of these jobs." So we got the box truck by June 1st, and we got that rocking and rolling. It's already paying off.
Somebody by the name of Autumn put consistency closing. Laugh out loud. That's your wife.
Yep.
So
Getting it.
go ahead.
I said she's getting it.
So one thing that we think, we talk about how it's easy, and I don't talk about it that it's easy, because it's not been easy. Let's talk about the struggles, right? Because everybody sees the fun side of the easy part. Let's talk about things that when it doesn't go the way we think it should go, and how we should handle it. Because you were one that you handle it way better, I think, than sometimes I would handle it. And so let's hit on some of them. And I know that I kind of make fun of it, but it's one of those things that it happens, that you've called me twice that you were like, "Jason, what do I do?" And let's talk about those, of how we handle those things.
Um, so, for one, even on the easy stuff, if a customer calls you and says, "Hey, you missed a spot," or "Hey, there's this," or "Hey," and I hear, and I'm not saying just younger people, but maybe younger in the business or younger in leadership, um, their response is defensive, and it's like, "Well, that wasn't in the contract," or "Well, I don't know if that was my fault." It's like, well, just bro, as a business owner, own it first. Let's remember that we are high ticket, which means high service, which means, go check it out, and I've always said that I back my work 100%. I've screwed up gutter paint jobs where the gutter paint failed. Technically, not my fault. Called the gutter people, and they're like, "Yeah, there is a paint supplier that every once in a while somebody will call and say that the paint failed." Well, I mean, that's not my fault. I can't tell which person has the bad paint on their gutter, and it's not the Sherwin-Williams. This is like gutter powder coat on. Okay, um, so it's not my fault, but that's not what I told the customer. I said, when I called the customer and said, I screwed up your gutters, I also at the same time said, by the way, I've got a painter and I've already had the painter out and got a quote. I just need your permission so that I can have the painter fix this. So before I even told the customer, I already had my solution lined up, ready to go, waiting on his approval so that I could fix it before he even had to tell me. He didn't have to call me and say, you screwed up my gutters. And actually, I'm still working on that to get that resolved. So, but it will get resolved one way or another, whether I have to buy all new gutters or not. So that's just what it is. I did another house wash where it looked like the front door was painted black. It was not. It was a very, very dark wood stain, and it became chalky, and it ruined it. And so I knocked on after I got the house wash done, knocked on the door, customer comes out. He said, let's walk in the back first. And I'm like, okay, well, the front doors are out here. We got around the whole house and he's like, man, everything looks great. I said, well, let me show you the front door. So I was like, pretty sure I screwed up your door. And, he was getting some other stuff painted. So part of it was just getting the house prepped for paint. And I said, if you don't mind, since your painter's going to be here anyway, see if they can go ahead and paint the doors, and whatever it is, I'll pay for it. And I dropped that check off last Friday before we went out of town. So stand behind your work and just put yourself in your customer's shoes. They don't know whose fault it is for what. All they know is it looked like this before you guys came. It looked like this after you left. And if it looks screwed up, you got to fix it.
Yeah. And when you do that, they'll love you, and then they will come back and they will buy more from you and more from you and more from you, correct?
Yep. And it makes you trustworthy too. And now they feel like they can send you to their friends. And the last one that I talked about the painter, he said, I'm going to refer you to everybody I know because, you showed me the problem and you're fixing the problem. So he's like, hey, accidents happen and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yep. And then the best one is when you called me about the screens that you messed up, or you didn't. I don't know if you messed them up or whatnot, but that was one that you were like, oh my gosh.
Okay. So if you ever get a house and it seems like if it's an older house, it has a lot of cedar shake on there. If they've got screened in porches, just feel of the screen a little bit because they could be copper. And copper screens and SH do not mix well. It turns
No.
them green.
They turn green. I learned that day. I learned all about the oxidation process because I didn't. I mean, I kind of knew about it. And when Chip was messaging me, he was on the job still working, and I was doing research on my side of it. And I was like, "Huh, you can maybe try to do this or this, but these are the processes that it goes through of copper and how it oxidizes." And it's pretty interesting, but not what you wanted to know. But and I was talking to Benjamin because he had messed something up, and he's like, "Do this or do that." So, I always talk about the highlights of in business, and I wanted to hit some on this tonight because I know not everybody is you are going to screw stuff up. It's going to happen. How you act and how you give customer service is amazing. You know, your guys' processes have shown over and over because you started really pushing for your Google reviews, and you're starting to see them come in. And you know, when I see them come in, they're talking about all of the stuff, how you guys go above and beyond and are so professional. And you know, those are things that what's really set you apart. You know, they could have been like, you know, he screwed up my door, and you know, and a lot of people I see that's what happens because we don't give good customer service. And even in mentorship, Chip has been really good about, you know, when other people are asking what should I do or what should I charge to come back, and Chip's like, that's part of being a premium service, right? That's, you know, we will go out of the way to make the customer to have the best experience ever. You know, that's why I always tell people to park out on the road, even in Christmas lights, because you inconvenience that customer if they got to leave or stuff, and then you got to pick up all your hoses or all of that stuff. Why make it hard for your customers? Give them the best customer experience ever, and you will have the best business ever, and you will get the most referrals and all of that stuff. Now you have to ask for them. If you're not asking for them, they're not going to give you referrals, and they're not going to give you reviews. But when you ask for them, they will come for sure. So,
And
go ahead.
another thing, talking about lifetime value of customers, if you're not asking your customer, hey, let me go ahead and get you on the schedule for the spring next year, what are you doing? We have we have next spring getting booked up now, because after we get done, they are so ecstatic about our service and what we do and how we handle ourselves. And then when we say, hey, let's go ahead and get you on the schedule next spring, that way you're not searching for a company, or maybe we'll be booked up and you won't be able to use us again. So let's go ahead and get you on the schedule now. So always make sure you're trying to go after tomorrow's money, not just today's.
Yep. Zerny asks, what's been the biggest job you did by yourself as a new business owner? And I'm going to ask that to everybody. I would like to see what has been your biggest job as a pressure washing business, whether you're starting new or not. I'd like to see that in the comments.
So for pressure washing, I think 42 was the highest one for one job with like one truck.
4,200.
I believe so.
So Autumn's got to step her game up then.
Well, no, that was just one truck, one
Right,
thing.
right.
She closed a $7,900 job. That'll be like a 2-day thing, but I'll have both trucks there, that kind of thing.
Right. David put, running to problems build customers for life as long as you handle it properly. So,
Yep.
So someone asked, what does your cards look like, your EDDM? They kind of look like his pressure washing, his clashpressurewashing.com. If you go there, that front big picture of that big driveway that he did, it has like his logo and stuff. That's kind of what it looks like for his thing. So,
and if you look at my Facebook page, my website, and my flyers, they all look similar. It all looks really, really, really close. And even my Google,
Yep. Had another local pressure washing company majorly overpriced a driveway, or majorly overpriced a driveway. The customer accepted and they never showed up. So did he really overprice it? I wouldn't say that. So they called me and I washed it. Plus I got a tip for the bailout. You might have underpriced it.
That's what it sounds like to me.
That's what it sounds like to me. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings when I say that, but know your worth, and you're worth a lot more than what you think. I used to tell people $200 to $300. Now I'm starting to push $300 to $500 an hour. You're worth that much because everything has going up and everything is still going up. I seen someone in the pressure washing groups was talking about how much cost has went up this year, and people ain't raising their prices to stay up with it. And it will put you out of business. You know, this is not a for nonprofit business. This is a for-profit business. You want to pay taxes. If you're not paying taxes, that means you're not making money to be able to pay taxes. So that means you are a for nonprofit lost business at that point. And we do want to pay taxes, and that means you are making money, right? And I know sometimes we don't always think about it that way because we don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes either. But you're literally a business that if you want to make money and be successful, you're going to pay taxes. If you're not paying taxes, that means that you're probably not making money, and there's a good chance as everything keeps getting raised, you're probably going to be not knowing your number and going out of business. Uh,
Hey, I like getting tips like the next guy, and I think it might have been Jason that told me this one time. But if you're getting tips on just about every job you go on, that means the customer's feeling bad for you because they don't think you made enough money.
yep,
So raise your prices.
yep. How do you resolve metal screens top streaks after a wash? This was actually copper screens, and basically, you want to test because you can mess them up even more. But they turned when you left the bleach on it, it actually turned it bright green because it made it the oxidation go from the black to the dark green, and so we needed to come back down to the black, and so we tried acid like one restore, and it did all right, but it didn't do perfect. Correct?
Yeah. So the best thing for copper screens is to pre-wet, wash the house, rinse, 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 and rinse some more. And don't let that SH dry. So, and that's what had happened is where I started the house wash, went up around the house, and when I ended at that last eave, I had some overspray go around to those screens over there, and I did not take the time to walk around and make sure those were rinsed off. But I didn't know it was copper screens at the time either, you know?
Yeah. Some people put their hit the thumbs up. 6,500 was his